But another thing that I just wanted to talk about quickly was that we had the burial ceremony within 3 weeks, and it was a well attended event. A lot of people came. And another thing that I found out from going through that whole phase was that somehow major life events can be defining moments for us. What I mean is, when people go through the lowest moment in their lives, they often tend to remember people that were there for them, people that did not leave them despite them saying, "No, I don't want to talk to you," despite saying that, despite trying to push people away. People remember the ones that stuck around, the ones that checked in, the ones that were intentional, the ones that thought it okay enough to try to support in different ways. I remember vividly that on that same day, immediately I mentioned it to one of my friends. She immediately said she was going to care for my son for whatever period I needed. I was the one who even insisted that no, that I would just take him to my in-laws, but she did care for my son. I also remember, obviously, my husband was very supportive. He ensured that everything was okay with me, at least to his own abilities, according to his own abilities. I had someone else that was my friend. She got me food. I had my friends that came to visit me as well. You know, and I discovered that it was those moments where I was left alone, when I was left alone, that I had enough time to think deeply about the loss, and then those were my saddest and my darkest moments. So when people grieve, it's important that we allow them grieve the way they want to grieve, but at the same time, we don't leave them alone, even if we're just there, just that presence, just that checking in, just that sending message, trying to call. If they're not in the mood to speak, no problem, but we shouldn't leave people alone, because I discovered that it was those moments when I was left alone that I began to really think about, oh, what happened? Why me? Why have I lost my mom at such an early age? How come? Why was it that when I was trying to make more sense with my life, by writing exams, moving out of the country. Why did this happen at this time? It was a very trying time for me personally, and it's still something that I've not been able to wrap my head around. But I had all those questions. But all in all, I know that the support from people, in fact, sometimes it's a bit the least expected people that would support the most. But I'm just grateful for my friends. I remember one of my friends, she traveled down all the way from Ibadan. She came to Lagos. She just wanted to be with me, even though I told her not to worry. She still came. She was just there giving me words of assurance. Sometimes she just sat in silence. I had another friend that was taking the course with me at the time. She was always there. She would spend time with me in the evening, bring me food. I had friends. I had a friend that came with his wife. They came to visit me. And all that love is just very reassuring that you are not alone in this dark world. And trust me, it was a very trying moment for me. I lost appetite. I couldn't sleep. Sometimes I'll just wake up in the middle of the night. I'll just start crying. It was a very emotional time in my life. And I'll have flashbacks. Sometimes I'll think I've heard her voice, but obviously that was not real. And it was just a very difficult time thinking that I had lost my mom. I mean, it's still something that I can, when I try to think about, when I say that I lost my mom, I'm like, I lost my mom. Wow, it's still something that is very difficult to process, but I just thank God for that grace that He gave me to be able to walk through the whole journey. And, you know, after the whole ceremony, of course, we're back to reality, back to caring for my son, back to work. I remember that one of my first times at work, everything, all the emotions were still very fresh as at that time. I remember that one of my clients was talking about grief, and it just reignited all the emotions. I had to leave the word round that day, and I wept out my eyes. I cried so much. I was so sad. It was a very difficult time for me, I must say. I cried so much. And even now, sometimes I don't even know what triggers it. I just find myself crying about it. But at the same time, I just have that comfort because I know that she was a Christian and I know that she's with Jesus. I know that she's with God. I know she's in heaven. But I miss her so much. I remember that during one of the programs that we had for her. We call it the homecoming program. So there are different programs that people have when people lose their loved ones. Sometimes people have the Christian week, then can have the testimony night or the homecoming, and then the burial. So we had those three events. So it was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So on Thursday we had the homecoming where different people would come, people from the societies that she belonged to in church and even in general world. Then she also had friends, families, relatives, in-laws. Different people would also come just to share their testimonies about her. And I remember that day, I think that was the most difficult moment because you have a great mom, right? But when you now hear other people talk about how great she was, it just breaks you all over again. And I think that was my most emotional time. I really cried. And after I read out whatever I was going to read out, I remember someone telling me that, oh, you're lucky. I lost my own dad at whatever age. I can't even remember what they said, but I think that was one of the most insensitive comments I received. And but well, I just ignored because when it comes to grief, everybody's learning how to react. But trust me, talking about your own grief or comparing which grief is worse than the other is not really a necessary part of you trying to comfort someone that has just lost a loved one. Anyway, thankfully, I think that that phase went okay, but with coming back to reality, coming back to the real world, knowing that I would never receive a call from my mom again, it was just a very difficult thing for me to process. But I just tried to focus on the things that I had in life. But one thing remained is that life moved on. It moved on so rapidly. It moved on like nothing happened. You're trying to see whether life could pause, help you catch a breath, see whether you're able to adjust. But somehow life just moved on rapidly. And since then, life hasn't stopped. It has not stopped for anybody. But all in all, I know that grief helps or helped me personally to understand and to treasure relationships right. And I'm really grateful that my relationship with my mom was beautiful, and especially in that last 1 year, it was really good. I learned a lot from her. I was able to reason with her. I understood her. She understood me. We had lots of time together, and she was just a solid woman in every sense. My mom is that person that even in her 60s, she would be thinking about business strategies, what next to do, what's the next thing. And she was never idle. Her brain was always working. She never believed in impossibilities. She just knew that I want this and I'm getting it no matter what. And she'll put her heart to it, put her mind to it, make her research. She was really good. And another thing that she was really known for was her generosity. She always was always thinking of how to bless somebody else. She would say, "Do you have any clothes, Tola? Do you have any clothes? Please bring all the clothes, even your son's clothes, the ones you're now wearing again, anyone that you don't want outdated, anyone, even if it's new, just bring them. I have people to give." And that was one thing that I really missed when she left, because then I didn't know who to give my clothes. Eventually I found someone, but she had that spirit of generosity. So even though she was very hardworking, she also always thought about giving back to the society. And she was always a force to reckon with in any sphere that she found herself. She was always outstanding. She made sure that she cared for her kids. We would show up, and you would think that we were from the wealthiest family ever, but we were definitely middle class, the lower rung of middle class, if you permit me to say. But we're definitely not the richest people, but we would show up and people would think that we were all right just because my mom cared about how we looked and our manners. She taught us a lot of things. You wouldn't go out with my mom and not greet someone. You wouldn't go out and you'll be at your best behavior always. And that really helped me growing up and even becoming the woman that I'm becoming today. Because I just think about it that I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it to please my parents. And she helped us to understand those principles even from an early age. Another good thing, or one beautiful memory that I remember about my mom, is that she was very prayerful, very, very, very prayerful. And she knew the scriptures offhand. She knew the Psalms offhand. She would always pray every morning. She would pray, she would sing praises to God. And that was something that really resonated with me. A prayerful, hardworking, generous, awesome woman. I really thank God for that. Grace, you did leave a legacy. I've said part of the things on my mind. I've not really been able to say everything because it keeps coming to me in different phases. Sometimes I'm able to remember all the things that I want to say. Sometimes I'm just broken to see that the good people leave us early. But one thing I know is that, Grace, you lived a very full life. You lived a life that impacted not just a generation, but generations to come. I remember you almost every single day of my life because you probably told me about something, you told me about this, told me about that. I'm like, oh yes, mommy was right after all. She was really right. She everything that you taught us was true. It was true. And the way you protected us fiercely. I remember one story about the protect, not one, two stories. And when I shared with my sister today, one thing that she just said is that the righteous is as bold as a lion. If there was anyone who personified that that scripture, it would be Grace. Why? Because Grace had four girls, I'm not the only child, obviously. I've mentioned my siblings. I have three sisters, they're older than me. And, in every society, if you have girls, you need to really, really be on the lookout because sometimes people could prey on them because of their vulnerability, but not us because my mom was always there to protect us. So I remember there was someone who was trying to threaten my sister, or who was really threatening my sister. I remember that scene. I was very young. I remember someone hitting our gate so hard and asking my sister to come out. And I just remember that scene. But what came out of it was that my mom got the person arrested for 3 days. And since then, nobody ever dared to threaten or even imagine to threaten any of us. I felt like that was one big characteristic of my mom. She was very bold. She was as bold as a lion. There was nothing that made her get scared. She never got scared. She was so bold. And I remember there was a day that a man tried to bully me. I was on my way from Ibadan to Abeokuta. It was after school. I had just finished school, so I was taking all my things. And I think that the vehicle I was in collided with his vehicle just a bit because I didn't even notice it. He just parked, crossed us, and said, "You've hit my car." And we tried to find out what the damage was. It was nothing. I didn't even see any scratch on the car, but he insisted that we needed to fix the car and blah 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 blah. And I tried to speak to him that, sir, I understand what is going on. We could just pay you, but I don't want to get to my city late. So can we just be on our way? I was as polite as I could be. But the man insisted, was very tall, he was a big bully. He then said that if I wasn't careful, he was going to impound my things and keep me there till the night. So immediately I heard that, it was definitely a threat, and I thought maybe because he thought I was a female and he could take advantage of me. So what I did was I just stepped out of the scene, called my mom, gave her a brief, and also gave her the number plate of the person's car. And my mom then said, "Give him the phone. I would like to speak to him." And then I told him that my mom wants to speak to you. I think that he didn't see that coming, and whatever she told him, he began to beg me and asked us to go because I'm sure that she would have dealt with him in a very nice way. So those are just a few things that I remember vividly about my mom. She was very bold, industrious, generous, prayerful, kind, and very firm as well. So even if you are with her, you definitely learn lots of virtues. I really do miss my mom, and I wish you were here. I wish that I could share all my memories, the beautiful ones, the not so good ones, the times that I was shocked after relocating, the beautiful things that have happened, everything. I just want to talk about everything. my work, my relationship with God. If Grace was alive, she would be the number one subscriber to this channel. She would share, she would watch it, she would say, "Oh, Tola, maybe you should not have worn those glasses. Maybe you should do it this way." She was very innovative, and I just bless her heart. I bless everything that she did. I bless the way she really poured herself into people, and I just pray that we'll continue to carry on that legacy. And in even my own journey of becoming, I become all of the virtues and even more. Grace, I really miss you, my very own baby, my mama, Jen. I really do love you. I wish you could watch YouTube channels in heaven. I wonder. But till we meet again, I love you with all of my heart. I miss you. My sisters miss you. Our dad misses you dearly. Love you, Grace.